Hey, my name is Kendrick with Technology Interpreters, where we explain complex technology in simple terms. My goal here is to help remove any barriers for anybody that's trying to get into cybersecurity or for anybody that's trying to further their careers in cybersecurity. So today, first thing we need to do is get you to set up your VM. So if you haven't already set up your Kali Linux VM, please go watch this video first. And then once you've set up your VM, come back to this video. So now, for those of you that do have your VM set up, I'm going to help you to get connected to Hack the Box. So the first thing that we want to do is you want to log in to Hack the Box. So please make sure you've already created your account. If not, go ahead and pause the video and do so. And then once you're in Hack the Box, I'm going to kind of look at my guide here. Just want to point out a few things. So where you want to start in Hack the Box is in the starting point series. This is going to walk you through some basics of it and the basics of hacking, and they have really good tutorials and really good written guides to help to build your fundamentals. Once you progress all the way through the starting point series, and some of this series is paid, okay? So be mindful that it's worth paying for Hack the Box. Then you also may want to progress into the tracks or to the machines. But for the sake of this exercise, let's circle back. The first thing that you're going to need to do before you can get started, and I strongly encourage you to follow along with me and to start with the starting point series. I'm going to go ahead and click in the top right hand corner, connect to Hack the Box. This is going to allow you to download your VPN configuration, which is going to help you to connect to Hack the Box network to be able to start to play the exercises. And so what Hack the Box is, essentially, it's a place where they have a bunch of virtual machines that you can connect to in their network and hack without going to jail. Yes, by the way, this is a good time for a disclaimer. Please do not hack other people's or do anything that's an attack towards anybody's network in the public, okay? Make sure you're always working in safe, approved lab environment. Now, once you've downloaded this, when you progress to the machines, you'll use the machines connector. But for now, we're going to start with the starting point and download this configuration file. So click here. Pawn box is a box that once again, you have to upgrade to VIP Plus. I'm VIP, you have to upgrade to VIP Plus. Another level, but they've got to pay the bills to keep the lights on. But Pawn box is like instead of having to build a VM, it's already like basically a web interface that you can connect to and run all these commands, and it just takes away the complexity. Maybe something that you're interested in doing. I strongly encourage you to build a VPN just for the practice. Now click Open VPN, and what this is going to do, it's going to download your VPN configuration. And once again, you should be in Kali Linux if you're either watching this tutorial, and the default download location is going to be the downloads folder. I typically choose TCP 443 because it's SSL and secured, basically it's encrypted. And so I'm going to download this, and it'll start the download process. All right, and see right there, make sure you don't open it with mousepad, click save file and click save. Very good. Now that we've done that, we want to pivot a little bit and we want to open a terminal. So in the top right hand corner, you see the little icon, that's going to be your terminal, okay? And then what you can do, you can also click on the Kali Linux and you can just search for terminal. All right, it says terminal emulator. That's the one we're going to use, but it's typically right here at the very top. Once that's open, we're going to change directories by typing cd space downloads. So we're going to go to the downloads folder. But hey, where do we start off? When you open the terminal, you can do pwd, print working directory, and that shows you where you are. So we're in the home folder in Kali. And without going into explaining Linux, so just like in Windows, you have a home directory. In Linux, you also have a home directory, and home Kali is where you started. And if I type ls, I can see all the other folders which are listed in blue here. But for this, we know Firefox by default downloads this to the downloads folder. So we're going to change to CD downloads. And I'm going to make this bigger for, okay. I already made a mistake. That's okay. I like mistakes. Mistakes help you to learn. Let's make this bigger so that everybody can see this, okay? And please leave feedback on the video, making sure I am making this big enough for everybody to be able to follow on. So CD for change directory and downloads. All right, and then we're going to type ls to list what's in there. So I've already got some stuff there. I've already downloaded the starting point open VPN file. So this is the file name that you'll see in the directory once you complete the download. So now we need to run this file. This is a configuration file for a product called OpenVPN, which basically creates a VPN, which is a private connection across the internet to Hack the Box's network. So you have a dedicated connection between your computer and Hack the Box, which nobody can get into, but it's also the only way that you can get into their network legally. Okay. And with that being said, we're going to run this command. So we're going to type sudo, which means we need to be the admin on the box, on the virtual machine that we're running. So sudo allows us to run commands as the administrator. If I just type this command without administrator, if I just type in OpenVPN, and by the way, in Linux, use the tab feature. Type OpenVP, and you can usually tab it out, and it'll fill out the command if you give it most of it. So if I did OpenVPN and it's starting, that's the file, that's not going to run. So you have to elevate the permissions by typing sudo OpenVPN starting point, which is the configuration file. So admin privileges, OpenVPN is the program that we're going to use, the configuration file, which is starting point, Stenix, which is my name, yours is going to be your username, okay? .ovpn. And we run that, and there it is. And guess what? We just connected to Hack the Box. So our next step in the process is we need to launch the machine. And what we do is we'll go to the starting point area, click on labs, starting point, and it gives us these learning basics. All right, I'm going to close this on the right side. And when I scroll down, it has Meow. This is going to be our first one. So we're under the tier 0. And then the first server under tier 0 is going to be Meow. So we'll open this. And there's a walkthrough. Please be mindful. You do want to open a walkthrough. You want to read through this. This is going to give you additional context that I may not give in this video. So we'll open that, leave that on the side. But this is where I'm referencing the main points from this guide that they've already created. But that's really helpful. Take the time to read through that. But for the sake of making sure that you have a clear way of getting into Hack the Box and you have a clear understanding of how to do this, that's why I'm doing this video. So once you've connected and you've opened Meow, expanded that, it's walking you through the different steps. So connecting to Hack the Box, we just launched the VPN software. So we're already set there. So click that. It will basically open that up for us. We've already done those steps, but that confirms, you should see just like what I'm seeing here. All green, starting point, got 27 players. We're all good there. Now let's go into the next step, spawn the machine. Spawn means basically this is a virtual environment. Those machines are not necessarily always running to save resources. And so when you begin hacking, you want to launch the machine so they can run, powers up, boots up, and then you can attempt to hack it. This will take just a second and this will be ready. And so then we go into the steps. What does VM stands for? The answer to that is, I'll show you in just a second once our machine spawns. Okay. All right, that works. So make sure you click on the IP address that copies out your IP address. You're going to need to reference that for the rest of this video. I have a separate guide to the right, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that out. So that's your IP address. And once again, in Hack the Box, a quick tip is if you click the IP address, if it's listed in green like this, it automatically copies it for you. So what does the acronym VPN stands for? The answer is virtual machine. Okay. We'll answer all of this in just a second. Let's see, what tools do you use to interact with the operating system in order to start our VPN connections? You use the terminal, okay? The terminal is what you use, okay? That's what we open, we cover that. What service do we use to form our VPN connection? It's gonna be OpenVPN. What is the abbreviated name for a tunnel interface and the output of your WAN boot sequence outputted? What is the abbreviated name for a tunnel interface and the output of your VPN boot sequence output? So VPN boot sequence output is right here. This is So I would say that this is going to be the answer right here. I'm not sure how we're supposed to arrive at that. Tunnel interface, but TUN0 is the name of the interface on the Linux box right here. Let's make sure this works. TUN, okay? But that's in your output. Now, let me make some sense of this for you, okay? Because that's a cool question, but let's explain that in details. So, if you do an IF config, this is how you look at your network interfaces or your network, basically your wireless network connection, your wired internet connection, etc. So if I type IF config, it gives me all of my connections and IP addresses here. ETH0 is your Ethernet hardwired connection. This is your loop back. That's a little bit more complicated to explain. And this is your tunnel interface, your VPN tunnel, TUN0. And this is our IP address on the Hack the Box network. And many hacks that you're doing, you're going to need to know what your tunnel address is. You can also run a command called nmap, which you're going to talk about in just a second. And we can run that command using the name tunnel instead of actually specifying an IP address. We can say, run this command on interface this, and it'll omit us having to remember what our IP address is. Really helpful. Let's see if there's anything else in here that really does clarify how you were supposed to know it was talking about tunnel. I don't really see a reference to tunnel here. All right, well, that's fine. Okay, so we know that's tunnel. What tool do we use to test our connection to the target? All right, well, let's go ahead and let's start down the other path. Let's start doing the actual tutorial. So we'll answer that question in just a second. So that's the tunnel interface. I'm going to open a new tab by clicking File and New Tab, plus. All right, and then the way that you interrogate now this. So I'll say this because some of the more advanced security practitioners may have some opposing opinion to this, but for where you are now, you want to use the ping command, which basically sends a signal to, or sends a little message to the device and says, hey, are you here? And if the device is there, it responds, yes, I'm here. And then based on that IP address that the device is still there. So remember, I copied the IP address before. So I'm ping, and by the way, to paste in the Linux terminal is Control-Shift-V. There's my IP address, and I'm pinging. So why am I doing this? Because before I start hacking, I'm going to press Control-C to stop. Before I start hacking, I want to make sure that my network connection, my VPN, everything is up and running. Because if not, I just wasted a lot of time running a hack and I was not even connected to it. So that's going to be the first step. Another way that you can test connections is you can use the Telnet command. So we'll try. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll take that back. Let's back up. We want to do the nmap command next. So we want to use the network mapper. So now that we know it's there, we're going to run the nmap -sv. Disregard all my commands. This stuff I've typed before. And then Control-Shift-V to paste the IP address. So the reason I'm doing this is because what nmap does is now that we know the IP address is there, it's going to reach out to that device, it's going to scan it, and it's going to try to identify open ports on the device. What are ports? Well, if you're logging into a website, you're literally connecting to the computer's IP address, but you use a domain name to make it easy to remember. So once you connect, web servers typically run on 443 or port 80. 80 is insecure. But a computer has 65535. That is the number of ports on the machines. And each of the services, whether it's Telnet, ping, websites, all those different things, they use different ports. So imagine that they're different. One machine has 65,535 different avenues to serve up services. Hopefully, I don't want to get too far off the tutorial, but just keep that in mind and maybe take some time and do some supplemental reading on ports. But for the sake of this exercise, we're going to try to identify open connections or open ways that we can communicate with this server and then initially deliver hacks to it. So nmap minus SV, that's the IP address. Press enter. This is going to run. It takes just a second. And when it responds, it'll come back. And this SV commands means we don't want to only know what type of services are running. We also want to know the version of the service because hacks are very specific. There may be software out there where one version has a vulnerability, but the other does not. And maybe you upgrade to this version and the upgrade may eventually have a vulnerability, but an older version was not. So you need to know what version of it. So we're able to see that Telnet, which is basically a way of connecting to a device using a terminal and being able to issue commands, is running on port 23. That's awesome. So we're gonna telnet to the device. Now that we know that's open, we can just simply type telnet and our IP address. Control Shift V. Ooh, I got something. So what do we do now? Well, we need to enter credentials. And so some typical credentials you want to enter are there we go. Perfect. So as you can see at the very bottom, so some typical credentials that we use: admin, administrator, and root. That's what they're illustrating in the tutorial. So let's type admin and password. We're going to try no password. No password. Okay. All right, that didn't work. We're going to try administrator. That is not administrator. Okay, so in this Telnet terminal, you see how it's doing that H? Press down the control key and the backspace key, and you can actually backspace in a terminal command. Hey, pro tip, that's a little hack. Saved me many times throughout the years because you just can't press the back button. You have to press control and the back button at the same time. So ADMINISTRATR, administrator. Password, no password. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try, maybe it's a Linux device like this. Let's try root. Oh, wow. Well, ran out of time. So let's reconnect. That's a good lesson too. In many cases, for security reasons, you're only allowed a certain amount of time to issue commands to prevent people from sitting there and just hacking on it for, all day, every day. Let's try root. Maybe this is a Linux server. Oh, boom. And there was no password in root. Okay, so that's good. So now we're actually connected to the box. We know it's a Linux device because root was the password, just like our Kelly box. So let's type ls to this directory. Oh my gosh, and there it is. Flag.txt on Hack the Box. And what you're going to be searching for in the future is, there are usually two flags. There's a flag for the user credential. So when you compromise a server or workstation or whatever, you typically won't get administrator immediately. There's sometimes that you do. And so sometimes you'll have like lower level permissions of like the person who has an account on that machine, but that's not administrator. So you'll have a user flag, and then you'll have to upgrade your credentials through other hacks to get administrator privileges. And so in this exercise, you only have one flag, but keep in mind in the future, there will be at least two flags on just about every box that you attack. And you want to get in the habit of being able to get the user flag and elevating your credentials to get the ultimate, which is the root flag or the administrator flag. Okay, it'll be called root, I think. So user.txt and root.txt. So the way that we display this flag is we type cat command. Cat basically displays the contents of a file. So cat flag.txt, press enter. And that is actually the flag on a Linux box, or in these capture the flag type of exercises for Hack the Box. Flags can take on different formats. Sometimes the flags will be like, there'll be flag, just so you know, in other type of scenarios. Well, that plus that long string of text. By the way, to copy, Control Shift C. Then I can Control Shift V it right there. So sometimes flags will look like this. Okay, so just be mindful that the format can change in different exercises, but a lot of exercises and capture flag exercises, when I say exercises like 8 times, we'll use that format. So now that we've captured the flag using Control Shift C, we'll go back. Let's finish answering our questions now. We've learned a lot. So we know that the ping command is how we test our connection to the target. We also know that the name of the tool that we use to scan the target is called Nmap, Network Mapper. What services do we identify on port 23? We identified Telnet was the service that was running. What username ultimately worked on remote management login prompt? That was root. And then finally, the flag, we click here and we paste. What you'll do is you'll just not Control Shift V. You can right click or Control V to paste your flag here. But I've already entered the flag here, and you'll click submit. And then at that point, you will get credit for pawning your first box. You don't get any points because, once again, these are tutorial boxes. As you progress in Hack the Box, you will get points. I do not have any points. I am still a noob. I'll be honest with you, it's very hard to attack a general box. You will learn. Don't get me wrong. Don't get discouraged because you can't immediately go in here and start pawning boxes. Okay, I've worked on boxes for days, and then I was able to kind of see how they were like these are supposedly easy boxes. And man, after working on it for days, like I was like, there's no way I would have ever come up with that. I had no knowledge of this type of technique or anything like that. So just be mindful, Hack the Box can be challenging. It's a tough environment, but don't give up. Work through the starting point series, and then I'm going to be working through these with you with these different tutorials. So please subscribe to the channel. I hope this was helpful. Please leave comments if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.